Well, good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Richard Cruz, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Navy is Lieutenant Commander Georgina Acetuno. We warmly welcome the family of Lance Corporal Henry Varcoe Pearce, whose story will be told shortly. We also welcome Mr. Fred Murray Walker, who is joining us this evening to commemorate the 75th anniversary of an RAF Lancaster bomber crash in Scotland. Mr. Murray Walker's father was the navigator on the aircraft which perished in the accident. As always, we welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. And during this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by family and visitors to the memorial. If you're able, I invite you all to please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. If you're able, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn their loved ones buried in faraway lands. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we'll read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths and floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Lance Corporal Henry Varcoe Pearce. Henry Pearce was born on the 4th of January 1885 in the Sydney suburb of Leichhardt, the second eldest child of William and Kate Pearce. Henry, or Harry as he was known to his family and friends, went to school in Leichhardt and later worked as an iron worker with the New South Wales Railway. Harry was described as a gentle and quiet man with a great sense of humour. He married Florence Sarah Pearce, and the couple had one child, Lois, who was born in 1910. At the time of his enlistment, the couple were living in Marrickville, Sydney. While in the service, Pearce also went by the nickname Gully, possibly a reference to him having worked as a cook. Pearce enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force in December 1915 and took his oath at Casula, New South Wales. All of the Pearce brothers played a part in the war. Percy served in the Army, Charles served in the Australian Flying Corps, William served in the Royal Australian Navy, and Francis was a munitions worker in England. Henry Pearce sailed from Sydney on the 13th of April 1916, and after brief stopovers in Egypt and England arrived in France in November 1916. Harry joined D Company of the 20th Infantry Battalion just in time to endure the terrible winter of 1916 and 1917. The unit served in the Somme region of northern France, and in December and January endured the grinding hardships of trench warfare, either resting behind the front or facing intermittent German artillery barrages at the front line. Throughout February and March, Pearce and the 20th Battalion pursued retreating German forces to the Hindenburg Line, a reinforced and shortened series of trenches designed to improve German defensive capabilities. On the 30th of March, as his battalion was stationed near Bapaume, Pearce fell ill. He was hospitalised for a little over a week and returned to the front on the 8th of April. However, he was again hospitalised only 5 days later. Harry suffered from numerous infections as well as persistent pains in his legs, a condition known as trench fever. This second hospitalisation was severe enough that he eventually transferred to England to recover. He spent nearly 3 months in England, but while there underwent some additional training and met up with his brothers. He rejoined his battalion in France on the 1st of September 1917. Less than 2 weeks later, Pearce and his unit transferred north to the muddy and bloody Ypres section of Belgium. Pearce had his first major battle at Menin Road on the 20th of September. D Company was the first group in the battalion to take up starting positions for the attack, which was preceded by a heavy artillery barrage. The attack was a success for Australian forces, who took all their objectives, though it came at the cost of over 5,000 Australian casualties. On the 8th of October, in torrential rain, Pearce and his battalion were moving into position in preparation for the next day's attack at Paul Capel, when they came under heavy German high-explosive artillery fire. Pearce became one of many casualties suffered in his battalion on this day when injured by the German shelling. He was taken to the 3rd Australian Casualty Clearing Station with severe shrapnel wounds to both legs. His injuries were so severe that his right leg was amputated above the thigh and his left foot was also removed. On the 13th of October, he arrived at the 2nd Australian General Hospital in Bologna to recover. In a letter written to his wife while in hospital, Henry told his wife, "Well, Flo, love, do not go worrying over my injuries. My right leg is off above my knee and my left foot is half off, so I've come out very well indeed, better than one losing their life. So I'm very thankful to be spared, so please, dear one, do not worry. I shall return to you all, if God spares me, to cross the water safe to dear old Aussie once again." His wounds, however, were so severe that he died on the 18th of October. He was 31 years old. He was survived by his heartbroken wife and 7-year-old daughter. Harry's loss was deeply felt in the Pearce family. On the 27th of October, his brother Francis wrote a letter to the authorities pleading for information about his fate to be sent to his grieving wife and mother. In honour of his fallen brother, Percy named his son Henry, and 2 of his other brothers used Henry as a middle name. The family also left many touching tributes in local papers. One, left by his wife's family, read, "The hardest part is yet to come, when the heroes are returning, and we miss from among the cheery crowd the face of our dear Harry." Harry now lies in the Wimereux Communal Cemetery in France, along with nearly 3,000 fallen Commonwealth soldiers of the First World War. Henry Varcoe Pearce is listed on the Roll of Honour to my right, among almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. His photograph is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Lance Corporal Henry Varcoe Pearce, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
If able, please stand for the reading of the ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. In the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes this evening's last post ceremony. We thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial and wish you all a very good evening. Thank you.